distinguished guests. A warm welcome to the Area L1 District 41 workshop, ACE, the International Speech Contest workshop with distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. I'm Toastmaster Farhad Fuad from Chittagong Toastmasters Club, serving as a Sergeant at Arms for today's program. Along with me, I have Toastmaster Faisal Muhammad Ibrahim from Chittagong University Toastmasters Club as a tech moderator for today's event. First of all, I would like to read the mission of a Toastmasters Club. We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop their communications and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. By attending this remote club meeting, you agree to the privacy policy of Toastmasters International, as well as the unassociated remote hosting service. Some of your personal information, like your name, your image, shared messages, may be shared with other meeting participants and will be recorded by Toastmasters International, who will use in future as it sees fit. Your remote attendance hereby discharges Toastmasters International from all the disclaims, demands, rights, promises, damages, and liabilities arising out of or in connection with the use or distribution of the said video recordings, including but not limited to any claims for invasion of privacy, appropriation of likeness, or defamation. To make this event successful, I'd like to request everyone to maintain some ground rules throughout the meeting. Please choose a quiet location to avoid the potential distractions. Use headphone to avoid echoing, and mute yourself while you are not speaking. Now I'd like to request our Area L1 director to take over from here to conduct the rest of the program. Our Area L1 director, Toastmaster Nusrat Huda, an MBA in finance and a soft skill trainer by profession. He is the director of training and development of a training institute named Brainiard Academy of Smart Skills. As a Toastmaster, she has won various accolades, including the District 41 runner-up of Humorous Speech Contest in 2019. She is the event chair and organizer of today's event. Now, let us all welcome with a big round of applause our Honorable Area L1 Director, Toastmaster Nusrat Huda. Toastmaster Nusrat Huda, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Toastmaster Farhad, for introducing me so well. And now, greetings, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests joining us from all across the globe. A very warm welcome to the Area L1 District 41, ACE the International Speech Contest Workshop by distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. Well, I, Nusrat Huda, Event Chair and Area L1 Director, would now like to take this opportunity to welcome all the dignitaries, district officers, and each and every Toastmaster and distinguished guests present here today who have taken their precious time off their busy schedule to attend this workshop. It is such an honor and privilege for all of us at Area L1 Division L District 41 to be able to host such a grand event with participants from within and beyond our district, that too sitting in at the comfort of our very own homes. Well, we have an enriching and enlightening workshop awaiting us today, but before that, I would first of all like to invite our Honorable Division L Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Ghulam Dastagir Johnny, to address us all. Distinguished Toastmaster Ghulam Dastagir Johnny is an entrepreneur by profession and has been a President's Distinguished Area Director 2018-19, DCP Coach of District 41 1920. So please welcome, with a big round of applause, Distinguished Toastmaster Ghulam Dastagir Johnny.
Thank you so much, our Area L1 Director, Toastmaster Nusrat Huda, for inviting me, and thanks to Area L1 for organizing such a great event, I would say, because this is very necessary in this very moment to organize a workshop on international speech contest. And it's really great to see that so many
You're not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
Sorry, there was a little, technical issue. Well, I'm seeing that so many participants from Division N and outside of Division L, from District 41, from, I can say, outside of District 41. So it's really great to see them all. And it's really nice to see also our distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. He is the research person for today's workshop. And also it's great to see DTM Ayan Pal, our Club Good Director East. I'm seeing the name DTM Jennifer Ghosh from our immediate past district director, Toastmaster Zahid Hossain, our associate club good director, and so many, and it's a beautiful Toastmasters. And I hope you will enjoy the session, because DTM Rupinder Singh is such a great speaker who managed to reach to semi-final of international speech contest from District 41. So we are so happy, and we are so, it's giving us a big honor that you are here in this very event. And wish you all the very best. And I'm thanking to all who are actually working behind the scene to organize this event. All the very best. And over to you, Toastmaster Nusrat Huda.
Thank you very much, our Honorable Division L Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Ghulam Dastagir Johnny, for your wonderful words. Now we have among us an esteemed dignitary to address us all today, all the way from Kolkata, India. Well, he is an IT consultant, author, speaker, and educator with a passion for volunteering, an IBM accredited IT professional with 3 Brandon Hall Awards and 10 Service Excellence Awards to his credit. He is also an author who has contributed to several amazing bestsellers. He was also listed by Hindustan Times as one of India's top 5 writers of short fiction. And this former district champion of table topics and 3 times distinguished Toastmaster is known as a champion of club support, having sponsored, mentored, coached 29 plus clubs. Well, he is none other than the District 41 Club Growth Director, distinguished Toastmaster Ayan Paul. Please give him a huge round of virtual applause. Distinguished Toastmaster Ayan Paul, the screen is now yours.
Thank you so much to all the leaders on the dais and off the dais and future champions. I'm indeed honored and privileged to be in this beautiful meeting today. This, I believe, is the perfect incubation center towards future district champions. And you couldn't have had a better leader than Rupinder Singh, who is an amazing communicator, to come and share his personal stories about how you can take your story to the international stage. But at the end of the day, it will depend on you, dear students. Yes, that's what I'm going to call you. Sometimes even the best has to become a student. And today, as you proceed in this journey of trying to pick up tricks and tips from the master himself, please remember, in order to learn, sometimes you have to unlearn. Sometimes you have to relearn. And sometimes you have to just simply hang in there. So today, use your head, but also use your heart. Only then can you create something that will be called as art. And to be able to do that, all you need to do is listen. Number 1. Number 2, learn. And number 3, lead. When you listen, Only then can you learn. And when you learn, you can truly lead. And that is how you will earn, and that is how you will breed. So please pay heed to what I'm telling you today. Today is a wonderful opportunity of turning yourself into the next champion, someone who is better tomorrow than what you were yesterday. But tomorrow is something we have never seen. Yesterday is something we cannot ever change. So today is the only day you have in your hand. Present. Think of this as the greatest present, and take the presenter, Rupinder Singh, distinguished Toastmaster, as seriously as possible and as jokingly as possible, because even when he's making you smile, believe me, what you learn will take you a long mile. So let me not spend any more time and instead thank Nusrat Huda, soon to be DTM, for taking this wonderful initiative of sharing and in the process showing us all the true meaning of caring. Over to you, Nusrat, and all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear sir, for your words of wisdom as always. We are truly honored to have you among us. Well, also, finally, amongst us, we have the Associate Club Growth Director of District 41 and Divisional Advisor, Toastmaster Zahid Hussain. Well, Toastmaster Zahid Hussain is a businessman by profession and has, and a community development worker by passion. He joined Toastmasters in 2015 and has led from the front whenever the community needed his service. We are honored to have him amongst us today, so let us all welcome Toastmaster Zahid Hussain with a big round of applause. Toastmaster Zahid.
Thank you, Toastmaster Nusrat. Every time I hear Toastmaster Oyon speaking, and somewhere I know that I have to speak next, after the poetic Oyon Pal, I am thinking, oh my God, what I'm going to say. So today, of course, this wonderful event has been organized, which is the best thing which possibly could have happened for all our speakers, all our international speakers, because this is the competition which can actually take you to the international stage. This is the competition which can lead you to becoming the world champion. Now, I'm going to say something which maybe a lot of you are not expecting. I have seen speakers leaving Toastmasters just because they have not won the contest. And today I'm going to talk about them, not the champions. If you are a speaker who was in the contest last year and you are still in this particular session to learn, then trust me, my dear friend, you are already a champion because you have not given up. Losing a competition can actually give you purpose. I'm not saying that keep on losing, but losing 1-2 competitions can actually take you much further, because somewhere you will be re-evaluating yourself. You will be checking on the mirror and try to understand what is wrong and where you can get better. So my dear friends, if you are somebody who wants to get better, you have somebody who can actually make you better. We have the district champion, somebody who has gone to the semi-finals. So who better than Rupinder Singh DTM to actually take us through this wonderful journey of learning. So best of luck, and I really hope that you learn a lot of things tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Zahid Hussain, for your wonderful words. Okay, so finally, dear ladies and gentlemen, the International Speech Contest is the most coveted and prestigious contest organized by Toastmasters International every year, which begins at the club level and goes all the way to the World Championship of Public Speaking. Undoubtedly, it's also one of the toughest competitions of the year. And in order for members to excel in this contest, they need to learn the art of effective speech crafting and techniques to enhance their presentation. Well, our workshop today will focus on these very aspects and will help aspiring ISC participants as well as any member who would like to learn the tips and tricks of effective speech crafting. And today, in order to conduct this workshop, yes, we have with us someone who has been there, seen that, and done that all. Yes, I'm talking about none other than our key resource person today, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh. Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh is a seasoned training professional with more than 2 decades of experience in training and development, holding a diploma in training and development from Indian Society of Training and Development. He also specializes in e-learning, instructional design, behavioral, and leadership training. A twice distinguished Toastmaster, in August 2018, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh represented District 41 in the World Championship of Public Speaking at Chicago, where he stood second in the semifinals. Personally, whenever I have spoken to him, he has always mentioned two things. Number one, food, and number two, his wife. Well, he can even make a rock chuckle with his sense of humor. So, without wasting any more time, let's all hear from the perspective of World Championship of Public Speaking semifinalists on how to ace the ISC. Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh, the virtual screen is now all yours.
Thank you very much, Area Director Nusrat, and welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum, Bangladesh. I, for once, am nervous. I am in the presence of greatness. There is Jennifer Helen Ghosh out here, and then there is Ayan Pal. And when he says that he's willing to listen to me, oh God. Hang on. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to this International Speech Contest workshop. I will share my screen with you. Bear with me while I figure out the right screen to share. And here we go. Please confirm you're able to look at the screen. Just send me a thumbs up or something. All right. Thank you very much, Khalid. So let's tame this beast called the International Speech Contest. And before I begin, I want to ask, I want to tell you something. This presentation has 31 slides. So that is how long you're going to be patient with me for. You really don't have a choice. If this was a physical meeting, maybe you could try a physical assault to stop me, but one of the virtues of virtual meeting is you cannot physically assault me. Jackpot. Okay, so let's look at the International Speech Contest. First of all, let's go through what we're going to go through today. But before that, some behaviors that I expect from the audience. The first one relates to keeping your videos on. I'm a visual person. I like to see my audience as much as possible, whether they are reacting, whether they are not reacting, whether you're even looking at me, whether you're even listening to me. So please keep your videos on. Second behavior that I would expect is that please keep your audio off. Third, let's keep our chats private. Let's not send messages to everyone because it kind of distracts. And last but not the least, we'll have questions at the end. If you feel like that you have a question, just direct it to Nusrat for now. She'll collate it. Hopefully your question will get answered during the presentation. If not, we do have a dedicated 15-minute slot where I will be more than happy to answer your questions. So let's begin. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at speech writing, some of the best practices in speech writing. We are going to look at practicing, because practicing in itself is a practice, it is an art, and there is a science to it. I'll try and explain what I did from my experience. Hopefully, you can relate to it. One thing that everyone needs to understand is that it's not one size fits all kind of a situation. It's something that will, you can relate to some parts, you cannot relate to other parts. What you cannot relate to, try to find a workaround for that. And that is where you reach out to somebody like an Ayan Pal who can really help you out. Or you can also reach out to me, or you could reach out to Jennifer Helen Ghosh, or even Nusrat. Uh, Huge respect, humorous speech. I've never reached the district finals for humorous speech, and I can respect any person who is humorous. People mistake me for humorous. I am not, let me tell you that. And I'll talk about my semi-final experience, how it was. No, I'm not going to bore you with, oh, I went to this place and I went to that place. Like those travel bloggers do, at one with the nature and from the highest building in Chicago. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you what the semi-final was like so that you kind of relate to it and you want that experience for yourself. Trust me, it is one of the most liberating experiences being at the semi-final of a of World Championship of Public Speaking. So let's get started. We're going to start with the first section, which is speech writing. Now, before I ask you about speech writing, I want you to either answer in the chat or maybe by unmuting yourself. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say that I want you to participate in the international speech contest? What is the first question that comes to your mind?
Which topic on I can speak?
Brilliant. Brilliant. 9 out of 10 times people come to me with a topic. And while I agree that a topic is important, the one thing that you have to understand about international speech contest is not to take it as a contest. Take it as an opportunity to improve your speaking skills. Take it as an opportunity to benchmark yourself against others. And I will discuss this in due course, because many times I see people strategizing. Oh, maybe I should not go from this club. Maybe I should go from this club. Or this club just opened up. They might not have an established speaker. Let me contest from there. At least I'll get to the area. Then I'll see what happens. Don't do that. I'll explain in due course why. So while topic is important, I think the most important thing in a speech is your message. What is your message? And I'm going to dwell on this a couple of minutes, because because your message is what defines your speech. This is the reason why table topics are so difficult. This is the reason I have such a huge respect for Ian, because he's the table topics champion. In a table topic, what happens? You are given a topic. You're already given the message that you have to convey. All you have to do is construct the content around that topic. And many times we've seen table topics go off on a tangent. You start talking on oranges, you end up talking about apples. Yesterday, I was in a table topics contest where the topic was related to how a man is defined by his circumstances, and somebody took the topic to behind every man there is a successful woman, and then she went on to describe her mom, and it totally went off on a tangent. The point is that you have to focus what is your message. More importantly, what do you want the audience to do once they've got your message? What do you want them to do with it in the first place? Do you want them to feel inspired? Do you want them to feel entertained? Do you want them to be informed? Now, this is basics. This is the specific purpose. But what specific action do you want them to take? What is your call to action? And it is best answered by a very simple question. After listening to my speech, the audience will, and that will be followed by your action. So when I gave my speech at the district championship, which the title of which was Why Me, my intent was that after listening to my speech, people will stop saying why me. Instead, they will say try me. That was my intent. And now that I have my message, how do I reach there? And that is something that I'm going to help you out with next through a somewhat convoluted graphic, but I made this and I am all about complications, and you guys are all about figuring out the simplicity in my complications. Okay, I'm making that complicated. So the first thing that you need to know is to start with your message. If you're taking notes, please do not take them. I will share a PDF of this document with everyone. Just listen, just look at the screen as of now. So what is your message? Now, every speech has three parts, and this has been told to you many times. Uh, Aristotle said that the three ways to tell a story, the three steps to telling a story is tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them, and tell them what you just told them. And it comes down basically to three parts: the opening, the body, and the closing. Three parts. You have to write an opening, a body, and a closing. Now, many times what happens is that You have the body. Many times you do not have the opening and the closing. So you start with the body first, and I want you to have 3 points: point one, point two, point three, that you are trying to convey. Now, these points can be stories, they can be your experiences, they can be examples, but each one of them, if you look at this arrow over here, it is going back into the message. Each one of them has to feed into the message. If it is not doing that, then you do not have a successful speech. So everything starts with the message. You have an opening, body, and a closing. And your body will have 3 points. In a 5 to 7 minute speech, 3 points is more than enough, in my experience, if you're writing a speech that you intend to finish on time. So 3 points, three stories, three examples, three experiences, or it could be a story, an example, an experience, could be a mix of them, but three stories, 3 points, start with them. That is your body. Then try to encapsulate them inside a message. What is the message that you're trying to build in? Now, we will look at the opening part. There are quite a few ways to open. And right now, I know that you're seeing a blank screen, but you could surprise them. Maybe make a really startling statement. For example, me coming on stage and saying, uh, I weigh 55 kilograms, and you know that that is a lie. Uh, but at least some of you will be surprised with that statement. Second thing that you could do is provide a reference, refer to the current occasion. And in an international speech contest, a reference would not typically work. You would not start with "thank you for letting me participate in the international speech contest," and you move on to telling a story. Start with an anecdote. Start with uh, start with your personal experience. Start with maybe a memory that you have. So recount that. That is another way to start. Starting with a quote. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of starting with a quote because there is this originality thing, and I'll cover originality in a while. But my biggest problem with originality is not that there will be a protest, but judges have this tendency to start marking you down the moment you start with something that is not original. So even if I start with a very famous person once said that be the change you want to be, one or more of the judges will start thinking, okay, this guy probably does not have much to speak because he's starting off with a quote. I'm not a big fan of quote, but that's just me. It can be, it's totally up to you. One of the most easiest way to start is to ask a question, because somewhere along the lines, the audience feels a need to answer. Now, there are two types of questions where you actually seek a response from the audience. The other one is a rhetorical question. If you're asking a rhetorical question, be sure to give a gap of exactly 1 second. Slightly more if you have a bigger audience, but for an audience size of maybe up to between 30 and 100, 1 second. Here is a tip. If you want to give 1 second gap, just silently say "one Mississippi" inside your head. I just did that because "one Mississippi" is your 1 second. Why am I harping on 1 second so much? Apparently, the time it takes for an idea to form inside your head and come to your mouth is about 0.75 of a second. The time it takes for the audience to think of responding to your question is about 0.75 of a second on an average. Read that up somewhere. I can provide the reference to you. But the point is that you delay more than a second, the audience will start responding. You take less than a second, the audience will have a difficult time catching up. So maybe "one Mississippi" can help you, or maybe time yourself for a second before you go to the next question, especially if you're asking a rhetorical question. then you could provide a reason as to why they should be listening to you. And parents do this when they say that we need to talk. My wife does this when she says, I need to talk. And trust me, even as I'm saying this, shivers are running down my spine. But the point is that you're referring to the reason why you are here. More importantly, you are providing the WIIFM. What's in it for me? If you look at it from the audience's perspective, if you can humor, I cannot, because humor is natural. You either have it or you do not have it. With practice, you can learn humor, and if you've done that, brilliant. And if you can pull it off, go with a humorous opening, because nothing engages the audience more than a humorous story delivered well, a punch delivered well. But keep in mind, humor is very contextual. A joke might not work in one part of might work in one part of the world, it might not work in another part of the world. Case in point, Manoj Vasudevan, 2017 World Championship of Public Speaking. He became the world champion that day. But when I looked at the recording, he made a statement, something to the effect of that on July 4th, United States got its independence and I lost mine. I got married. So there was a pause. I saw that and everything. But the audience did not respond. Now, why would the audience not respond? He was delivering the speech in Vancouver, which is in Canada. And not many people will relate to July 4 in Canada. So, for example, in India, if I'm relating to August 15, it is our Independence Day. And if I'm delivering it to an Indian audience, makes sense. If I'm delivering to an audience in Saudi Arabia, not so much. So, humor, understand that it is contextual, not just on the basis of the location, also on the basis of gender. And please do not go for below the belt humor. Uh, for example, I've heard people who talk about, oh, and I made that mistake also. I'm the elder sibling in the house. I suffer a lot. What it does is that you kind of alienate the other side of the audience. So if you can do humor, go with it. The final piece is the act. And we've seen this in a lot of speeches. Dhananjay Hetrachi did it with the rose. Mohammad Katani did it with opening with a cigarette and closing with a cigarette. It's a wonderful way to do it, but I will cover it during the props. When I talk about props, you could do it with, so your act is also a prop. I'll cover it during that time. Let's look at the closing. Now you'll kind of see that the box for openings is so big, the box for closing is so small, because I want to tell you the key thing about closing. The first thing is summarize. So there has to be, after you've made your opening, you've transitioned into your body, you've told your you've emphasized upon your 3 points, summarize what you just said. And it could be in the form of a story. So for example, in Why Me, I tell 3 stories, one about my childhood, another one about my college life, another one about my corporate life. And then I summarize them using a single statement that where I go and I kind of draw a conclusion about my corporate life and then my college life and then my childhood. So I kind of bring it all together. The second thing is a call to action. And this is most often missing. All you have to do is that throughout this part, until you were talking about summarizing, you were talking about yourself. Now it is about the audience. And this should happen between the green and the yellow cards so that you get a good 1 minute to talk to the audience, drive home the point. It was a mistake that I made in Why Me. It was my action point came way after the yellow card and went into the red zone, and then reinforce. That is your closing statement, and this is where your opening comes into the picture. I love to start with an opening, and then when I close, I want to get back to my opening. So Mohammad Katani did it. He started with by trying to smoke a cigarette, ended up crushing a cigarette. Uh, Dhananjay did it. Starts with a rose in his hand, which is plucking out petal by petal, ends with a rose in his hand. So I'm a big fan of reinforcing what I started with. In fact, yesterday I participated in the table topics contest, and I got the topic, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Funny story, I had the perfect opening because it was egg. Egg is equal to food, and Nusrat already told you how passionate I am about food. So my opening was going to be, huh, maybe I should have had eggs in breakfast. But I keep my screen open so that I am able to look at every person. And as I did that, I saw somebody doing a horrible thing. Okay. They were picking their nose. And suddenly my opening went from I wanted to have breakfast to stop picking your nose and taking the name of the person. And then I decided that, okay, that is going to be rude. And then I also realized that the timer has already started. And I started by repeating the topic. And I guess that is what made me come second when I could have easily come first. No harm done. I'm still going to the division level. But the point that I'm trying to make is try to have that opening, bring it back in your closing as much as possible so that it serves as a reinforcement, a recall, if you will. Okay. Now, I told you to make 3 points, but you will have so many things to tell. And my advice is to write everything. So when I wrote Why Me, originally, it was a 13-minute speech delivered at the Great Lakes Institute of Management on February 3, 2018. It was a 13-minute speech, and it had close to 6 stories. Now, why am I saying write everything? Write every story, write every experience, give every example. Because it is easy to take out content from a story than to add new content later. Everything depends on this slide. You've got an opening, a body, and a conclusion. Every time you make a change to, even if you try to add a story, your opening is going to change, your body is going to, your closing is going to change. So write as many experiences, write everything down. So if you're going to talk about, let's say, the story of your life, do not just limit it to your one memory from childhood, or one memory from your school/college life, and one memory from what you're doing right now. Try to have every story that you think will contribute to the message. That way you can choose the best one. And people in learning and development will know what I'm talking about. This is what we call collating all the content and then chunking it later. It's still not final. Your content is still not final. But the point is, try to get in as much content as possible so that later you can pick and choose. Later you don't have to struggle with the content. Okay, I should have added that story, or maybe that story makes sense. Do not get into that mode. So write everything. First of all, write everything. The second thing, and I learned this the hard way, write for the ear. You see, when we write with an intent that people are going to read it. We've been brought up this way. When we wrote essays, we wrote so that our teacher could read it. When we wrote letters, we wrote them with the intent of the other person reading. We never wrote them with the intent of other person listening. And this is something you can try out. 100 words. I will ask, I can give you a topic, you can write 100 words on it. And when you can type it out, you'll have your 100 words ready. And I'll ask you to speak. And I can guarantee you 99 out of 100 times, there will be a thought inside your head that maybe I should be saying this instead of this. So for example, I was talking about a speech about my father. Now my father is ambidextrous. And I thought that ambidextrous was a beautiful word. And I wrote that my father ambidextrously did blah, blah, blah. Now, those of you who are familiar with the term, an ambidextrous person is somebody who can write with or function with both hands. And my father really can. There are stories that he's a mathematician. I'm also a mathematician, but he's a more accomplished one. So there are stories that he could write two parts of the theorem with each hand. So one hand was writing one part, the other hand was writing the other part on the other page. There are stories that I have heard. Okay. Now, which one do you find more relatable? When I say that my father could write ambidextrously, or that story about writing a theorem with both the hands, which one do you find more relatable? Or which one do you find more interesting? Theorem or the word?
Both the hands.
Exactly. The point is that, so when I'm writing ambidextrously sounds very cool. What a word, what a vocabulary, that kind of a thing. But when I'm speaking, I have to be more, not specific, more informal. Again, when we write manuals, for example, and I keep on referring back to what I do, often have to use the active voice. There is no option. I have to use the active voice. But when we are speaking, we are more informal. Sometimes we do use the passive voice. And that is what I mean, that when you're writing, write for the ear. Now, purists will scoff at me, but nowadays what I do, that before I write, I speak in my head, I record it, and then I write it down. Because I want to cut down the time. What I will advise you to do is first write everything, write as if you want the people to read. And then start reading. There will come a time where you will kind of feel uncomfortable with what you're saying. And your brain will tell you, okay, maybe you can better express it this way. Okay. So one of my speeches has an opening where I go that I'm very good at letting people down. You ask my dad, and you will see a very docile person become very enraged. You ask my mom, you'll see a God-fearing person having homicidal thoughts. And ask my wife, well, don't ask my wife, because there is only so much negativity you can bear. Now, sounds simple, but somebody told me that, look, this word negativity sounds great in a corporate setting. Okay, because it's a term that is used in corporate settings. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute someone. Hang on. Um, okay, so sounds great in a formal setting, but I might have to simplify it. So write for the ear. Try to make it simple to the ear. Understand, you've got 5 to 7 minutes in which you are trying to convey a message. If you are writing something that the audience will have to figure out on their own, it is not going to work. So write for the ear, so that the moment people listen, that is the moment where they understand. Okay. The best speeches are not written, they are rewritten. Why Me was written 117 times since February 3, 2018 to May 13, 2018, when I delivered it at the district level. 117 edits. I know it because I wrote it as a Google document. And Google has this thing called versioning. I checked it out 117 times. Why me was rewritten. And between Agra and Chicago, Why Me was written another 95 times. That's a lot of rewrites. But that is what you need in order to get that perfect speech. Many times we have this habit that, okay, I've spent a lot of time writing the speech. I think it is a good speech. And we are looking at it from our perspective, but there are many other perspectives. So rewrite your speech, revisit your speech, even the slightest of doubt that maybe I can express this in a better manner, go ahead and do that. And maintain versions for your speech so that you can always fall back to a previous version if it is not working out for you. Now I'm going to talk about something called ARTS. It's a learning principle. It's something that we use in learning and development a lot. It relates to every learning instruction. What it says is that there are 4 steps for your audience to internalize a particular learning instruction. And that is attention, relevance, confidence, satisfaction. I am extending this to your speech. Your speech must gain the attention of your audience. Second, it must establish relevance. Why is the audience listening to you? This is your body part. This is your body. Your body needs to gain attention, establish relevance. The confidence comes from your stories or the points that you're making or your examples or your experiences. And satisfaction is all about the closing. How many of you have seen Avengers? Can I have a show of hands, please? Avengers, the first one. Can anyone tell me what was the most satisfying scene in that movie? The most satisfying scene in that movie. Can anyone tell me?
I guess when uh, when the Thor gets his hammer.
Where Thor gets his hammer. Thor already no, that was, I don't think that was Avengers. Thor already had a hammer. Anything else? Anyone else?
When all the Avengers came back.
Iron got it.
When they are saving the city.
When Hulk thrashes Loki. Okay. Trust me, when I watched that inside a cinema hall, and I had my son with me, it was just after his birthday. And when that happened, when the puny god scene happened, the audience was like wild. It was almost as if they wanted to do that to Loki. And that is satisfaction. That is the feeling you want to recreate. And that is why your closing is so important. Okay, so that is arts for you. Let's move on. Okay, somebody is trying to talk to me on Facebook Messenger. Give me a second. I'll just go and close my Facebook page. Sorry about this. Where are you, Chrome? Where are you when I need you the most? God, thank you. I apologize for that. And back. All right. So the next thing I want you to understand is ethos, logos, and pathos. And I say this from the experience that I've had when I come across TEDx speakers. You know what makes TEDx speakers so successful? It's that they have an environment and they will recreate that environment inside your head. And not just TEDx speaker, most of the established speakers. There is a speaker whose name I'm forgetting. She came to our semi-annual conference. Ayan, do you recall this lady? She climbed the Everest. She's from Nepal.
I don't remember her name. She was from Nepal and she's a Toastmaster and she had climbed Mount Everest.
and the other
What was her name?
7 peaks also. I don't
Yes, yes.
recall her name, but here is the thing. So I was talking to her about what it is like at the top of Mount Everest. And she told me a story that on top of the Mount Everest, there is enough space for about 30 to 50 people. I mean, they can stand. I said, wonderful. We could have a Toastmasters meeting out there, at top of Mount Everest. It will be an experience. And then she told me another story. So apparently, when you are climbing Everest, there are crevices you pass. Okay, crevices are like, so there is an a bridge made out of ice, which is about 4 feet wide or 3 feet wide, in places 2 feet wide, and it is 50 feet long, and you have to cross it. And when you are crossing it, the one thing you have to do is just look down where you are placing your step. You cannot look on either side because it is a drop of about 300 to 500 feet. And the worst part is if you fall, if you are unfortunate enough to fall, no one is coming to rescue you because the oxygen is so scarce that not they will not spend the effort. Okay, it is cold, it is very difficult to focus, and you are walking across that crevice for 50 feet. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to cross that. And it is one of the most nervous 10 to 15 minutes. Now, I don't know how well I did, but how many of you were at Mount Everest a few moments ago? How many of you were there? How many of you feel a chill run down your spine? Now, when she told this story, I told myself I'm never going to Mount Everest, ever in my life. Okay? That is what I mean by recreating experiences. When you deliver a narrative, there are 3 parts to it. The first one is ethos, logos, and ethos. The other is logos, and the third is pathos. Translated, ethos stands for integrity. It is coming from you. So, for example, if I was talking about nuclear medicine today, I probably would not be having 76 participants that I see right now. In fact, getting even one would be a challenge. That's because I don't know anything about nuclear medicine. And the first question that probably Nusrat will be asking me, who are you to talk about nuclear medicine, number one. And number two, why should my audience be listening to things about nuclear medicine? Okay. So ethos is integrity. It is it is what you bring to the speech. Okay. Second one is logos, which is logic, which is about the subject, which is about your topic, which is about your message. How well can you explain it? Now, it is something that is done very well, illustrated very well by Mohammad Katani in his speech, The Power of Words. And if you haven't seen it, do watch it. It is one of my favorite speeches when it comes to World Championship of Public Speaking. That and a sink full of tomatoes. Okay, tomatoes. Yeah, it was tomato. A sink full of green tomatoes. So there he describes a person who's an environment scientist, and he kind of describes the reason that why people do not take environment seriously. That's because it is not explained properly. We know that the risk that global warming presents, or climate change or melting glaciers, but nobody explains it. So here is the thing. Your speech, the way you're delivering it, should be understandable by a 13-year-old. Your speech should be understandable by a 13-year-old. If a 13-year-old cannot understand your speech, you need to further simplify it. Again, goes back to the audience. If you are going to ask the audience to interpret your speech or try to make sense of some term in your speech, You've got 5 to 7 minutes. You're wasting a large part of those 5 to 7 minutes. So keep that in mind. And the third thing is passion. I've talked about TEDx speakers. I talked about professional speakers. I talked about keynote speakers. Successful speeches have 65%, more than 60% passion, 60% pathos. It is seen in the audience. So ethos is about you, logos is about the message, pathos is about your audience. How your audience reacts, how your audience feels, that is what defines your speech. I don't want to get political here, but in India, we have a prime minister who is a passionate speaker. And guess what? He's a crowd puller. Any political opinion aside, somebody likes him, somebody dislikes him, keep that aside. What you cannot deny is that the man is a crowd puller. When he goes to speak, people turn up and listen. And he does that on the basis of passion. And there are many speakers who focus, or who are very good with the subject matter, but they lack passion. And because they lack passion, you will not be interested in listening to them. And that is the secret to acing table topics, by the way. Because when you are given a topic, your mind is thinking, okay, what do I talk about? What is my next thought? You are so focused on the logos part of it, you don't realize that a lot of it is coming from the pathos part. Can you be passionate when you are delivering your speech? Can you demonstrate how in love with your topic you are? If you can do that, then your audience will relate to it. And then you will see your speech go another level. I'm coming to the practice part now. So how I want you to practice. First of all, anytime, anywhere, anytime, anyhow. You don't always need a stage. My routine when I was going for my district and Chicago was to practice why me, no matter where I was. So I would literally create a stage on my phone, and I would say I will start at this point of the stage. My first story happens to the right. Then I will take 3 quick steps, go towards the left. And I would recite my speech as I'm doing that. First story, background. Second story, third story. I created a stage on a 4-inch device, which is now a 6-inch device, but you kind of get the picture. I was reciting why me when I was taking a shower. And there have been instances when folks at my home are like, is everything all right? Why are you yelling, why me, why me, why me? That also happened. But practice anywhere, anytime, anyhow. Find a reason to practice. If you don't have a mobile device, your hand, it becomes your stage. Start here, deliver speech here, move here. Okay. What do you think this is? Can anyone tell me? Don't say 3x3 grid. Can anyone explain what this is?
Positions on a stage.
Jim, you've attended this before?
No.
Okay, I'm kidding. Yep, absolutely right. This is your positions on a stage. Now you define where you are going to start your speech from. Now, so this 1, 2, 3 is the part that is closest to the audience. And 7, 8, 9 is the farthest. Your stories happen in 7, 8, and 9. When you're giving a message, you use 1, 2, and 3. And the intervening space is where your acts happen. Now define these for yourself. You have to define that, okay, first part of my speech, 2. Second paragraph, 1. Third paragraph, 3. I usually do 213, then 987, using 6, 5, and 4, whether I'm in 987 or not. I divide my stage. Do that. Even if you are giving a speech, writing, sitting down, or maybe let's say that you are in an interview and you're giving an answer in an interview, you can easily do that. You can kind of use your hand gestures that, okay, this is 1, 2, so this is 2, 1, 3, 9, 8, 7. I hope I'm making sense. And if not, then I'll try and explain it again during the question and answer session. But divide your stage. Now, once again, divide and conquer. This is different from dividing your stage. This is about dividing your speech. Why Me had 10 parts, a total of 10 parts. And I focused on each part instead of the whole speech. In the beginning, of course, it was the whole speech. But then I focused on each part. One day, I was practicing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next day, I was practicing 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then I was practicing 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I had each part nailed down to a level where you could say, okay, start from part 4, and I could, like this, recall what was part 4. What this did was, it made sure that I never, ever forgot my speech. And if you want to remember your speech, you will have to divide and conquer. Break it up into parts. The minimum number of parts that you can break it to is 5, because you've got an opening, 3 points in your body, and a conclusion. I further break it up, because in conclusion I've got three parts, which is to summarize, a call to action, and then a reinforcement. And that takes it up to 7. But then what I did was I added some more parts to the body, because I was starting at 2, going to 1, going to 3. So that was like 3 parts of my opening. So that got broken down into 3 parts, then the stories, and then there was the summary. So divide and conquer every part. This is what I did. I took my speech, I copy pasted each one inside a PowerPoint slide. Each part was inside a PowerPoint slide. I followed something called a 10-20-30 rule. It's you'll find it in a book called Slideology. It says that your presentation, a 20-minute presentation, should have 10 slides maximum, should not go beyond 20 minutes, and the minimum font size on that should be 30. The minimum font size on that should be 30. So for each part, I would keep on reading it, I would keep on practicing it until each part came down to maybe first a short summary, then it came down to about 3 or 4 bullet points. And the moment it came down to about 3 bullet points, I knew that I had that part mastered. All I needed to do was look at those bullet points, recount what I had to say. And that is how I kind of practiced. Again, hope it makes sense. Otherwise, I will try to answer it during the question and answer session. Coming to props. Should you be using props? And by props, I just don't mean physical props. I mean your acts, your anecdotes. Question is only if necessary. The answer is only if necessary. Do not add a prop just for the sake of having a prop. Now, for example, there was a speech that I heard, a wonderful speech. There was a chair in the middle of the stage, and the person was, and that chair specified, that chair denoted a person. Assume that the person's name was Joey. It was a different name in the speech. And Joey somehow is not somehow, Joey is the life partner or somebody, a significant other of the speaker, and she was talking to Joey, and she would look at Joey for advice, and she would say, Joey, what would you say? And then she would stand right next to the chair and answer in a different voice as if Joey was giving the answer. And towards the end of her speech, she went, Joey, what do you say? And Joey did not answer because she pushed the chair and the chair fell on its side. Basically, Joey was no more, but she did not have to say those words. And that is a proper use of a prop. Inside the judging form, you will see support material or something like that. Many people mistake it to be a prop. No, it's your stories actually. Because not everybody is going to bring a prop. Also, do not have too many props. I once saw a speech where this person bought probably everything in his wardrobe, a coat jacket, a cologne, and antiperspirant, and God knows what else. It was just too much for me. Okay, it was supposed to be a 5 to 7 minute speech. It went up to 8 to 10 minutes, and there was a point where even I lost patience. That okay, too much. So try not having too many of them. Body language. Many of us fall into this trap of trying to get the right word, the right combination of sentence, the right tense, the right grammar. Understand one thing about grammar. Grammar is not a subject, grammar is a behavior. It is a behavior that you have inculcated for God knows how many years. You are not going to wake up one day and become a grammar wizard. And this is where I tell people, do not get other people to write your speeches because it is their speech. We place so much emphasis on grammar, we forget that grammar is contributing only 7% to your speech. 7%, that's it. The rest of the 93% is divided into two parts. 45% of that is coming from your body. Not me saying it, Albert Mehrabian, an established psychologist. Sorry, 55%. I apologize. 55% of what you are saying is coming from your body language. And that is how interviewers figure out whether you're telling the truth or not, whether you're lying on your resume or not. So if you tell them that, yep, I've got 15 years of experience in Java programming, somewhere your body language will give it away. So 45% of it comes, 55% of your speech is your body language. If you have an acceptable language of acceptable level of language of grammar and accent, you are good to go. Keep that in mind. Now, I want to talk about vocal variety. Instead, I will talk about characters. Because I want to tell you a simple way of managing vocal variety. What I do is, I have characters defined for various moods. So I've got an angry Rupinder, I've got a happy Rupinder, I've got a sad Rupinder, and I have practiced them so much over the years, I simply slip into characters. And this is something that I learned from stand-up comedians. They have characters defined and they simply slip into that character. That's it. I mean, you will learn. So when you try to learn vocal variety, people will throw technical terms at you such as pitch and volume and timbre and frequency. It will almost feel like a physics class. My advice, focus on characters. And if your speech requires an angry character, Practice that character. How are you when you are angry? Picture yourself doing that. The vocal variety will automatically take care of itself. Now, if you're saying that somebody does anger better than I do, well, too bad. Maybe you can practice it better. Now, I can always, for example, my wife does anger way better than I do. Okay, that's because she's been practicing it for 20 years. We've been married for that long. So it's like, it's an effortless thing for her. For me, taking things lightly, I've been doing that for ever since I was born. That is easy. For the other things, I need to define my characters. So I've defined my characters and I simply slip into them when I am on stage. Try to work in characters rather than vocal variety. I find that a better way. You might want to follow the vocal variety way. Feel free to do so. What I'm saying is not the gospel truth or not sacrosanct. Okay, these are just my opinions that I'm stating. The best part is that sometimes I get paid for stating my opinion. So that is what I love about being in training and development. Now, define your stage. All the more important because now you are on a virtual stage. But when I was on a physical stage, sometimes my stage was maybe 6 feet apart, like end to end, wall to wall, 6 feet. Sometimes it was 10 feet. When I went to Chicago, it was a 50 feet stage, or maybe 25 feet stage. Anyway, it was a very long stage. Define your stage. In that, I'm going to go 3 steps to my left, and that's my maximum. I'm not going to take a 4th step. I'm going to go 3 steps to my right, and that's it. I'm not going to take a 4th step. I'm going to go 3 steps back. That's it. You may define your stage as 4 steps this side, 4 steps this side, depending on how nimble you are, but define that stage. Because on a 25 feet stage, if you say that I'm going to go to the end of the audience, end of the stage, you will have a difficult time coming back and your speech will go out of whack. So define that stage. In a virtual medium, this becomes even more important because now those 3 steps are actually 1 step. So this is one edge of the screen, this is the center, and this is the other edge of the screen. So define that stage. Maybe how back you have to be. Try to have as less distance as possible, but still be visible. Maybe if you have to adjust it a little bit so that when you are standing, they can see. Also, I use a contraption of stools and books and everything so that it is at this level. It is at my eye level. And speaking of eye contact, here is a tip if you are in a virtual environment. Very often, what you end up doing is that you end up looking at the screen. We have this habit, for example, like I'm doing right now. Now, what I actually need to do is not this, but this. Looking at the camera. That is my eye contact. That is my eye contact. Now, how do I do it? I learned it when I went outside. I learned it in a Toastmasters meeting. So they have this post-it and they write, look here, and they paste it right next to the camera. So that the first thing that you're looking at is the camera. In my case, I get the feedback that I don't smile a lot. So I write, look here, smile, paste it next to my camera. I haven't written that today, so you're probably not seeing me smile too much today. But you guys are smiling, so I guess I'm probably getting something right. Okay. If there is one advice that I can give you to succeed in Toastmasters, not just the international speech contest, it is to get out. Get out of your club. The more clubs you go and give your speeches at, the more successful you're going to be. And this is an opportunity, since a lot of clubs are having their meetings online, please go and deliver speeches there. You will learn many things. And I could tell you so many experiences when I got out. I actually went to a club in England, in United Kingdom. And I walked into the meeting and they asked me, do you want to be a grammarian? Sure. So one thing about me, everyone has a little voice inside their head that says, don't, stop, don't do that. I don't have one. So when somebody asks me something, my first reaction is usually yes. And then I looked at the enormity of the situation. I mean, these are people who ruled our country for over 200 years. They brought the English language to our country. Wren and Martin is still a sacred text in a lot of our schools, written by two Britishers. And I went to a club in Great Britain, told them, I'm going to be a grammarian. Okay. But I did win the best role player award that day. So I guess there's not too much that is wrong with my accent. At least I got that assurance that day. Okay. Be a judge. Many times you will have this complaint that why was I marked like this? Why would the judges think like this? My advice, be a judge. Because when you are a judge, you will understand how judges think, what is the thought process you go through. There are 15 contestants. How do you maintain that energy for each of those 15 contestants? Because then you will understand how a judge thinks. And believe me, you will never get this understanding by looking at the ballot. You will get this understanding only when you are a judge. So be a judge, not just because you not just because you want to be a judge, but because you want to be a better contestant. Be a judge. Also, be a judge that everybody else looks up to. And that way you are promoting excellence. Layouts on a virtual platform. So this is my layout. This is my default layout. It's because I look at the audience and I kind of feed off the energy of the audience. You may have a different layout. You might want a speaker layout because you want to see how you are speaking. You might be nervous, have a speaker layout, but this is my default layout. Now, the Chicago experience, and I'll very quickly cover it. We are running out of time. First of all, do not strategize. I learned this the hard way in Chicago, because many times we say, okay, I am a member of this club. Let me contest from this club because this is a new club. And because this is a new club, I have a greater chance of making it to the area. Then at the area, I start deciding, okay, maybe I should go from this area. Maybe I should go from that area. Do not do that, because once you go international, nothing matters. You are up against at least 5 other contestants. You're up against them and you don't know where they're coming from. Do not strategize. Trust your story. And it is not going to help you if you go to other person's other area contests with the intent of listening to the winner's story, seeing how your story compares against theirs. Because you are not going to change your story. You will not be able to do so. You will not be able to write a story in 7 days or 15 days when your next contest is due. So please do not strategize. Focus on your story. Trust the story that you've written. If it's got you this far, it will take you farther. If not, you'll have a learning experience. Look at it that way. Do not be a nuisance. If you've made it to the semifinals level, then you know most of the rules. Do not try to bring up rules that you already know. During the briefing, I had speakers who were talking about timing as if they were attending a speech for the first time. One of them had the audacity to ask that, will the red card be shown at 7 minutes? I mean, what planet are you from? And there you will find such people. And if you come across a nuisance, do not call it out. Focus on yourself. You are there to deliver your speech and move on. Listen to what your contest chair is saying, because there are many things that she will speak about. For example, the timing happens on a physical stage, happens through a laptop. I did not realize that. And I kind of almost ended up paying for it. I finished my speech dot at 7 minutes, 30 seconds. fraction of a second more and I would have been disqualified on time. Get your sleep, the most important thing. You want to be fresh for the stage. Get that sleep and get out once again. Visit the clubs wherever you are, because you will get feedback that you will not get from your own club. And even if you don't win, learn. It is a great learning opportunity. I learned a lot when I was there. Before I close, there is this quote that I so admire, and it comes from Mark Brown. It is from the movie Speak. It's about the Toastmasters International WCPS 2013, I think. And he ends it with that your life tells a story, and there's someone out there who needs to hear it. You may think that your story is not sensational, but it does not have to be sensational. It just has to be sincere. And if your audience can relate to you and your life experiences, chances are they will, then you need to tell them what you've been through. Share your life, share your love, and share your message to the world. 30,000 people participate in the international speech contest every year. There are more than 350,000 Toastmasters worldwide. Even if you make the decision to participate, you're already in the top 10% or less than top 10%. So do participate. And this is where you tell me that I'm a wonderful person, and if you want to ask questions, I'm open for them. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
You did not say I'm a wonderful person.
You are a wonderful person.
I have to turn on my virtual background because my son is watching something.
No worries.
Yes.
And firstly, about what you said in the end, the learning experience. Yeah. I can so relate to it. I can so relate to each and every word you said in this workshop, and especially about the learning experience. It's participating that matters. And I remember participating in the international speech contest only once, and it was in the year 2018 when you you went up to Chicago. I just managed to I just managed to win the runner-up in division level. But back then, if I had watched this entire workshop, I'm sure I would have done much better then. Anyway, thank you so much, sir, for that extremely wonderful, delightful workshop that we had today. And right now we can take a few questions from our audience. And I already have a question from one of our members. So I'll just read it out for you. Dr. Mansoor Hasib has asked, what are some emotions we should seek to arouse in the audience? And is there a particular order? For example, do we end with happiness? So
not necessarily. So this is a question that I get asked a lot. People are talking about their life story. So there is a person who's talking about depression, and the scope for humor is very less over there. There is this thing called dose. Okay, it relates to the different hormones that are released. So there is oxytocin, there is serotonin, and a couple of others. I would say try to arouse more than one emotion. Do not keep it all sad. Do not keep it all humorous, but try to arouse. So maybe the person should feel entertained and inspired at the end of your speech. Maybe the person should feel empathetic and inspired at the end of your speech. So try to arouse more than one emotions. That's pretty much it. There is no specific order. I mean, if you're talking about depression, and if it is one sad story after another sad story, and even if you try to needlessly interject humor in there, people will not be amused. So no particular order.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly. I think I made that very mistake in my speech in the ISC when I participated. I made everyone cry, and that's how they went home crying. and
I do that a lot. I don't even have to try to make people cry. So
okay. So anyone else has a question? Please put them on the chat box. You can directly put them on the chat box. sir, to see and respond to you. Anything you would like to get an answer to? Okay. From Utkarsh Mishra, I find difficult to find personal stories which strongly support my message in speech. So what should I start first, story or message? Story or message?
In your body, obviously, you are going to kind of bring out your message because the audience needs to know what you are going to talk about. How you do that, it is one of those multiple steps that I called out. Maybe you'll do an act, maybe you'll ask a question, maybe you will tell a story, maybe you will employ humor. So that is totally up to you. But from your opening, the message should come out. The audience should know what they're going to listen to and why is it important for them to listen to you. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay, another question. How do you perform dialogue in the Zoom setting? Which way should you look?
Okay. I am sorry, I'm supposed to be an expert on this, but I am not. I usually do this and this. I kind of maintain a 45-degree angle. I do not go beyond 45-degree. The contours of my physical aspects are such that I can't go beyond 45 degrees because then it looks very unnatural. So I employ the 45-degree approach. So right now I'm sitting at a 45-degree angle. This is me sitting at the right angle. And this is me again sitting at a 45-degree angle in the other direction. And I talk like this. Again, totally up to you. If you are kind of, not my size, you're smaller, like in width, then you could possibly turn it a little bit more. But keep in mind, if you are using the microphone of your computer, that angle is going to kind of affect the audio. And if it affects the audio, it becomes a problem. I've seen many people giving wonderful speeches lose out on audio.
Right.
Hope that answers
Thanks.
your question.
Yes. Okay, Toastmaster Renosh Thomas says, in a virtual contest, international and humorous, how, in your opinion, does a contestant engage or get audience response?
So my trick is to have this gallery view layout. Even if they spotlight me, I switch over to the gallery view. And I kind of tell the contest chair also to ensure that people have their videos on, because I kind of feed off the energy of the people. Even otherwise, I tell people from my club to join. So at least I know that they will turn on their videos. So I will see people. And when I kind of deliver a joke, I see them laughing, then I can also laugh along with them. The second thing, and I have not tried this yet, but I'm going to try, and maybe I'll tell you what it does. Have an actual physical audience inside your room. Have an actual physical audience inside your room. Maybe they're sitting behind your computer, and so that you at least get that feel that people are, laughing, or whether they are relating to it or not. So try that. I haven't tried it yet. I will try it, and I will possibly post it out on Facebook how it worked out.
That's a great advice.
The only audience I'm going to have is my son right now, because he seems remotely interested in Toastmasters. The rest of them think that I'm wasting my time. So that's going to be a challenge.
But once I tried that with my husband, and I got so nervous I forgot my lines.
Aren't you supposed to make your husband nervous?
I don't know. He was staring at me and I got nervous.
Seriously, what are you bringing to the relationship if you are getting nervous? I mean, it's what he brings to the relationship. Anyway.
Okay. Pooja Sharma says, how to finalize the topic or the idea to share?
All right. Brilliant question. And I get this every time. Can some of you please turn on your videos? Because I'm going to ask you a question, and Pooja, specifically you, if you could turn on your video. Okay. And if you're not turning on your video, use the raise hand icons. How many of you have participated in table topics? Because I'm going to give you an idea. All right. How many times has it happened that you hear one person getting a topic and you're like, I should have got that. I would have nailed it. Has it happened or has it not happened? And here is my question. That was supposed to be a 1 to 2 minute speech. What stops you from writing a 5 to 7 minute speech on that topic? There is no written rule. Just write a 5 to 7 minute speech. A lot of my ideas come from table topics. When I go to other clubs, even if I don't get to speak, I just note down the table topics. And I say that, okay, maybe one day I'm going to deliver a speech around this. So a lot of my ideas come from there. If you're running out of topics, just go to a Toastmasters meeting, attend, and you will get your ideas for the topic. And most often it
Awesome,
will be
awesome.
like, most often it will be, oh, I should have got that topic. So
Yes, yes.
there was a table topic contest in which they said that, eat to live and don't live to eat. And I said, I love that topic. I want that topic. I could totally relate to that topic. So
That's the most common table topic line that we hear in the contests.
in fact, when
Demo line.
in fact, when I when I have to tell them about speech writing, I actually use an acronym called time wrap. It was something that Pinaki Da told me. He's also a distinguished Toastmaster. Okay, one of the best chief judges that I've ever known, by the way. If you want to learn judging, just attend a briefing by Pinaki Da. It'll take 1.5 hours, but you'll learn more about judging than you will in a judges training program. That aside, there's a concept called time wrap. So TI is topics, go to table topics and interest. Figure out what your interest is. M is the message. E is every story. W is write for the year. R is rewrite, or the best speeches are rewritten. And A is anytime, anywhere, any place, or whatever those three words were. And P is, of course, practice.
Perfect. Okay, I think Mr. Rajesh has also asked a similar question. When I think about writing on topic, I seem to be blank, and if I have something, how to write for 7 minute speech would be more difficult for me. How can I overcome this challenge? I think we've already covered this almost.
Yes. So use that diagram that I gave you, point 1, point 2, point 3. First, go with the points and then build your opening and conclusion after that.
Okay. While playing different characters, is it good to change position?
Yes, I would say that it is always it was always good to change position. Even if you're not going to change position, you can always tilt your head like this and to give a different expression. But always a good idea to change positions, because at a subconscious level, it keeps the audience engaged.
Okay, that was a question from Neha Kaushik. Okay, another question from Jim Wan. How should we craft the title so as not to give too much away?
That is a tricky one. That is a tricky one. And I would say engage an expert, somebody who's good at writing. Again, I'm being biased, engage an instructional designer here to help. Because what we are taught in instructional design is how to make learning instructions concise. So if there is like 10 pages of content, how can we write it inside one page so that people are still able to understand the key parts? And if it is one page of content, how we can summarize it inside in a paragraph, and maybe summarize it down to a topic. I would say that, okay, if you're not good at it, engage somebody, ask them to go through your content and suggest a topic to you.
Right. Usually writing down the title at the very end, I think, is the best practice. After completing your entire
I always do that.
Right.
So phrase that is
okay.
written many times, maybe that can become your title.
True. Okay, Neha Kaushik asks, virtual background, does it matter?
Virtual backgrounds are not allowed at the semifinals and the final stages. So you might want to do away with them. If you're giving a presentation, maybe you'll have to talk to the contest chair that can I use my virtual background as a presentation device? But that depends from contest chair to contest chair and from chief judge to chief judge. I am not a fan of virtual backgrounds because they kind of hide a lot of things. As you can see, you can barely see my hand, and maybe I'm coming across as a one-handed person. But so that is the challenge with virtual backgrounds. Also, it depends a lot on the kind of computer you have, the like kind of infrastructure you have. You might need a green screen at your back to have a proper effective virtual background. My advice, don't. Although,
Okay.
sorry, I
Yes.
just now forgot to. There is also a case to be made that if I am a timer and I see a virtual background, I would probably start timing your speech immediately after the stage has been handed over to you, because to me that is kind of a non-verbal gesture for me. As a timer, I
Communication.
might
Right.
start timing you right away.
Okay, so that can be a bit tricky. So I think it's recommended probably to
Try
avoid it.
not having.
Right, right. Okay, we have time only for a few more questions, but I can see a long list of questions. So what should we do?
You can send
Would
them
you
to
like to?
me. Send them to me by email. I will reply, and then you could probably distribute.
Okay, that would be great. Just one last question. We'll take one last question. When I look up all the world champions, this is by guest Shobhit Pandey. When I look up all the world champions, their message was so simple and their stories were so mundane. How do I find a message in my stories that's not taken and is universal?
The answer is you can't. So if you are going to talk about the power of words, then talk about power of words in your own manner. Do not tell it like Mohammad Katani would. Tell it in your own flavor. So I once went to a newly chartered club, and I was asked to. So I was a speech evaluator, and thankfully I was not evaluating that speech. That person actually started giving my speech. Why me? I was a very interesting experience, and I was looking at the other evaluator, and so he comes to me and he says, "So how did you like my speech?" I said, "I did not like your version of my speech, but maybe if you can tell why me in your own way, add your own stories, it will become a much better story." So I kind of used Mohammad Katani's speech to build a speech around an environmental impact, about an environmental issue. It came out very well. But there is no such thing as a unique message, the one message that will set it apart. If you have a story, you tell that story, no matter how mundane it is, how many times they've heard it before. Take it as a challenge that you can make it more interesting.
Right. And just another question which came from our area L5 director, Toastmaster Jamaluddin Jamie. So he just asked, what if I don't have my own stories? And if I share someone else's story, how should we deal with that, with authenticity? If you can just cover on that. And that's
Authenticity,
going to be the last question.
Jamie, authenticity is not going to be your problem. Your problem is going to be sincerity. Because you're telling somebody else's story, you will have to practice a lot so that it at least comes across as your story. Or tell the story from the third person perspective, because you want to get as comfortable as possible on the stage. Okay, I'm assuming by asking this question you are saying that that you are not plagiarizing somebody else's story, but it's a story that happened with somebody else and you're kind of changing the characters. I would say number one, practice, and number two, if practice doesn't work out, then tell it from that person's perspective. So,
Great, great, great. Thank you.
Nusrat,
Thank
whatever
you.
are the
Yes.
questions, just put them inside a document, send it to me,
Sure,
and
sure,
I'll
sure.
kind of put
I'll
it
do
out
that.
either on my Facebook page or somewhere so that you can have your answers.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much once again, distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh, for that truly enlightening, delightful, enthralling workshop that you did for us today. I'm sure all of us have learned a lot from today's workshop, whether it's about speech crafting, practice, stage choreography. You've covered it all. I'm sure everyone has realized that, and I can see from the feedback, it was a fabulous session, and hope our participants will be able to apply these learnings to be improved speakers, be it in upcoming contests or just during regular Toastmasters meetings. Well, at this point, I have kept our darling, dear, immediate past district director, Jennifer Ghosh ma'am, waiting. I wanted to hear something from her at the very beginning, but now I want to hear something from her now, actually. She is our immediate past district director. In fact, she's the Smedley Distinguished District Director for the year 2019-20 for District 41. And she has attended the entire workshop from the beginning till the very end. So, dear distinguished Toastmaster Jennifer Ghosh, ma'am, can you please say a few words at this point?
Thank you so much, Nusrat. This was a really pleasant surprise. And I would, in the very beginning, like to say, hello, Bangladesh. It's a pleasure to be with you all. In fact, it's always a pleasure to be with Bangladesh Division L and with other District 41 Toastmasters. So thank you for arranging this wonderful session, Nusrat. I must say it was so engaging, so interesting. And like you said, if we had got a training on this maybe a couple of years ago or a couple of decades ago, because I joined way back in 2007, then I think I would have become even a better speaker than what I am today. So Rupinder, thank you so much for giving such a wonderful workshop to all our budding, enthusiastic speakers who are looking to reach that international stage. I encourage all of you to think big. Do not limit your thoughts, because it is only when you think you're capable of it and you have the self-belief that you will one day stand on that international platform. And I think the suggestions, the given by are amazing. It's really, really going to help you in the long term if you really take it seriously. On that note, I would just like to say thank you so very much for an amazing evening, and thank you, Nusrat, for the opportunity to address you all. Thank you very much. Sabakher.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for your wonderful words as always. And you have always been an inspiration to me and to many, many more women and of course men as well in our district. But when there's one woman leader I look up to and I want to be like, it's always your name that comes to my mind first and foremost. Thank you so much, Jennifer ma'am, for being with us today. Okay, so now I would like to thank all of you again, all our wonderful, wonderful people again, esteemed dignitaries, especially first and foremost, all our wonderful district officers, my fellow area directors, and members from all over the world who were present till the very end of this session. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. And at this point, I would also like to take a moment to thank my team members who've been working with me to organize this event. And Toastmaster Faisal Ibrahim, Toastmaster Farhad, they were the tech moderators today. And my team members, Toastmaster Tofatur Rabi Pial, Toastmaster Imon Hassan, Toastmaster Mithila Borua, Toastmaster Rezaul Ahmed, Toastmaster Mortuza Chaudhuri, and all the other members of Division L who actually helped me promote this workshop and ensure maximum participation for this event. Finally, I would like to thank our Division L Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Ghulam Mustaqi Johnny, for his valuable guidance and support as always. So, Distinguished Toastmaster Rupinder Singh has already given his email address. If you have any questions, any queries, anything that you still want to know from him, please forward your questions to him. He is a very, very nice, supportive person. And I'm really, really happy the way he sort of cooperated during the entire session and during my entire project. I've been bugging him with numerous queries and he has been very patient with me. Thank you very much, sir, once again, and thank you all for being here. So on behalf of Area L1, Division L, District 41, I would like to say goodbye. Stay safe and happy Toastmastering.
Well,
thank you all.
Good
night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for all those.
Fabulous being with you all. Good night.
Thank you for all those nice words. I'm glad I'm on headphones, because if my folks heard it, they would have said that they're talking about a different person.